And there we go.
It appears that we have a quorum, and so I will call to order this meeting of the Waterfront Advisory Committee. Let's please stand and pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The agenda for this meeting has been distributed. And so at this time, getting to the comments with respect to the agenda. Now is there a motion to approve it?
I'll make a motion to approve it. I'll just say this to you for future. I think it would be helpful that as we have these discussion items listed, that we also have textual information in the packets to see prior to the discussion, because in this particular packet, we have the minutes from the last meeting and the survey results, but none of the discussion items have information pertaining to them. So it would be helpful to see that beforehand. But with that said, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as it is.
A second? Second. All in favor? Agenda is approved. The minutes from our last meeting of February 9th have been distributed. And at this point, I would ask, if there are any comments or corrections with respect to those minutes? Agenda, if anyone like to offer.
So you do that one?
And that would be at the top of page 2 of the agenda document. Meetings. Paragraph begins, Mr. Oliver feels the results of question 11 are incorrect as it. I'd like to propose striking the rest of that sentence, replacing it with the following one, shall be very slow. After the words as it treats responses that do not indicate support for any vessel type as, quote, skips, close quote, for purposes of calculating support percentages. Read that again. I'll read it again. The sentence would be changed as follows. After the words as it, the rest of that sentence would be deleted and replaced with the following. Treats responses that do not indicate support for any vessel type as, quote, skips, close quote, for purposes of calculating support percentage.
Any objection to that change? I think that it's probably captured. What doesn't show here is addendum A. Did you saw addendum A in the packet survey?
I did.
Okay, so, and it didn't capture that?
I'm concerned about the minutes.
Gotcha. Okay.
If no further comments, is there a motion to have the minutes of the last meeting approved with the modification I did see? So moved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We have, Tracy, do we have meeting dates, any schedule after today, or we got clean slate?
No, sir. There are no meetings after today. If you want to stick with the first Monday of the month, you will be looking at May 4th, June 1st, and July 6th. Will get you through the next 3 months. If you're wanting to move into August, then it would be August the 3rd. Those are all the first Mondays of the month.
I personally have no issues with July 6th, but I don't know if others for holiday travels for July 4th. And yeah.
I'm good with all those days.
Okay, so we will move forward with May 4th, June 1st, July 6th, and August 3rd.
And as always, the schedule is subject to such other meetings as may be all.
And you may get to a point somewhere during that process where there's simply nothing to discuss. So,
It could always be.
correct.
And I can tell you, I mean, if it helps, I know that council will be on their summer break starting July 15th. And they will be reconvening on August the 18th,
We got a summer break.
if you would like one.
Why don't we see how it goes?
Okay, all right, so the next four are set.
All right, discussion items, status updates with dingy dock, day dock, and fencing. City manager.
Sure. On the dinghy dock at the last meeting of city council in March, a contract was approved for repair of the dinghy dock. So that process is underway. We expect it to be done by May 1, because there are federal funds that are being used for it, and May 1 starts manatee mating season, and we'll have to do construction with federal funds during manatee season.
It'll be completed by May 1.
That's the idea.
Okay. I can't remember whether they were permitting.
It's been permitted. And Bill, if I'm speaking out of school on any of this, speak up, but
No, it has been permitted. We're still waiting for the permits. Eric and I had some conversation today. I think he's gonna reach out directly to BCM on behalf of the city and Beaufortonians tomorrow to light a fire, as it were.
I see Mr. O'Quinn is snuck in on us. Good evening.
Good evening, how y'all doing?
Good, how are you?
The floats are ordered, I've approved all the drawings, the shop drawings, bills, the engineers have approved the shop drawings. They're in the process of being built, they're assuring me it's going to be delivered.
Gentlemen, ladies.
Chairman.
Welcome.
Next time we'll start at 5. I'll fix this man a bridge and I'll make it.
You voted all your votes.
Good.
I think that does it for the dingy dock and the day dock.
The day dock, we have a contract that the staff is bringing forward to council tomorrow evening for recommending for approval. It is to award a contract to O'Quinn Marine for construction of the day dock.
What's the estimate of completion?
Mr. O'Quinn, you want to speak to that since you're the contractor on?
As soon as, supposed to get a contract after the meeting tomorrow on Wednesday. It'll be Wednesday, so as soon as we get that, all of my people are sitting dead on ready to order the parts. The pipe is the hardest thing to come in because they're 70-foot long. They got coal tar epoxy coated. So they're just waiting on me to sign their purchase order.
We've indicated a strong desire to have that project finished by July 1. The fencing, if we're ready to move on to that.
Was there anything else, Mr. Copeland?
No, sir.
That's okay.
The fencing, from what I understand, did arrive last week. It was supposed to have been started today, but the contractor that's installing it had a few employees who are out sick today. So they did not get started today. We have high hopes that they will start on that project tomorrow. We have to take away the existing chain link fence at the same time the other was installed, so we don't have gaps and safety concerns. We have to do that simultaneously. So we anticipate that to start.
How long will that take?
Shouldn't take any more than the rest of the week.
What was the ultimate decision about signage, safety signage along there? Going to be any or?
There will be some signage along the fence. It won't be quite as BFF as was suggested to us. There still needs to be specific language on it to meet legal requirements. We will soften as much as we can. But in the meantime, it will be the same signage we have, no trespassing.
Are there any questions with respect to those status updates before we move on? Move to discussion item 2, the charrette discussion, Mr. Barnes.
All right, do it. Good afternoon, gentlemen. We meet again. So I'll come on, got a couple slides to talk about a quick refresh of, I guess, how we got here. I'll go over the first 2 projects that we spoke about, and then I'll go into some of the renderings and where we're going to go to wrap it up. So we're into phase 2. The last presentation I gave you guys was at the end of phase 1. That's where we did structural analysis. We started to come up with some alternatives. There's the team there. If you go to the next slide, I just want to talk about what we have done since then to assist the city. Even though it wasn't part of the relieving platform projects, one of the things we did was work with the city to do the Marina Day Dock. The key features of that, we're going to reuse existing piles. It's going to be a tropical hardwood deck, Ipe deck with stainless steel screws, galvanized bolts, galvanized hardware, marine fenders, and it'll be designed for the ground out condition, which I spelled wrong down there in my presentation. I'm sorry about that. So if you go to the next slide, this just shows the general layout. This is part of the shop drawings that Duncan just admitted over there and we approved. So it's going to be a better facility because it's going to, the courtesy dock's going to be a little bit wider and the piles are going to be internally guided. So you're going to have a more mooring capacity at that facility, a lot more cleats, and just a lot stronger in general. I think the structure that's there now, what's left of it's been there for 30+ years. This is going to be at least that, at least that with proper maintenance and all that. So if you go to the next slide, we'll talk about the day dock. Well, no, sorry, we're selling the marina dock. Yes.
That angle going up to the right there, where is that in conjunction with the ramp?
I'm sorry, this right here.
When you go up, run your finger up there.
This is the ramp right here, pretty much in this area. The ramp runs like this. So this is the seawall that comes down. The boat ramp is in between that line and this line right here. That line and that line.
Got it. Thank you.
So the project's awarded to Quinn. We've reviewed and approved the shop drawings, and then we spoke about the permit already on that. Everything has been sent in. It's been sent in a couple of months ago now, and everything is off of public notice. So that means that none of the other agencies, no public has had any comments. It's all like a paperwork thing now, and I'm hoping maybe a phone call or 2 to the right people, and we'll get some permits coming in shortly. Just to go over the day dock, this was part of our scope in this phase 2. And so what we did is we permitted the re-access of this. We originally, what we had wanted to do was this gangway here is we wanted to take that off, send that gangway to the manufacturer, have them take 5 foot off of it so we could put it back on a new platform that we have to make. Since we can't use the relieving platform, we have to have a new platform to hold the gangway. So our hope was this gangway is only 5 years old. Let's take it off, have them modify it, certify it, send it back to us. We'll reinstall it. the engineers at CMI Gator who made that said, look, it's a Warren truss design, and just because the way the truss is designed, we can't just hack 5 feet off of it. Engineers, what can you do, you know? So unfortunately, it kind of forced us to buy another gangway that we hadn't anticipated on purchasing to get the access back. So that did increase the price of the project. Unfortunately, that was just something that that wasn't foreseen at the time when we were talking about it, but essentially a new gangway will go, well, let's go to the next slide.
How much did that increase the cost?
I mean, right at, I think like 60 or 70 grand for the new gangway, something like, I'm not sure offhand. I was not privy to the exact cost. I'm just
$75,000.
$75,000. There you go. So it's considerable. The scheme is
You no money back from taking down the original gangway?
so there was some options in the bid package, which was the contractors could give a credit, or one was give credit. The other option was that the city would maintain ownership of the gangway for potential use at a later date. So the city decided to retain ownership. That ended up being, when we looked at all the numbers, potential credits coming in from the contractors that we bid, it just made sense for the city to retain ownership of the gangway. We did try to use it to offset the cost of the project, just the credit wasn't good enough. This is a situation that you have now looking in cross section. You have the day dock, the really long gangway, and then the relieving platform, which is condemned. And so what we came up with is another gangway that goes to a pile supported foundation that's completely independent of the relieving platform. Then we're going to span across right back over to the Palmetto Ring.
You may get to this, I don't want to cut you off too much, but the second gangway, the new one up on the hill.
Yeah.
What's that? Is that similar to the one that's?
Yeah, so aesthetically, it's all just going to match.
Well, why didn't we use the gangway, take it off the water and put it on the hill?
That's again, something else that we're looking at. Well, the 75 feet makes it too long if you go to the tree. So if you go back up a couple of slides.
You stop it in the middle of it, you've got plenty of room past the trees.
You can go, I'm sorry, go forward again, right there, stop. Right here. So this is at 45 feet. So if we're going to go to another 80 feet, we'd be at the other end of there. Why didn't we do that originally? Well, originally we wanted to reuse this gangway. So that was not part of the original. When we found out that there wasn't really enough time to go back we were trying to get this done so quickly. There wasn't enough time to go back and then rebid it with, okay, let's now make this an 80-foot long gangway in here, you know? So, I mean, it was the best option.
But given more time, we could have done that, potentially saved money, is that right?
Potentially, I guess you could take this 80-foot long gangway off and turn it around and have it go that way, and then just buy the 75-foot long gangway. But then you're cutting this area off entirely. I mean, I'll be honest, I did not look at how far out this would extend with your other 80 feet, where that would be. Maybe it would be feasible, but
But you said you couldn't reduce the size of that gangway because of the truss design.
I can't, that's correct. You can't reduce, what we're talking about is taking this 80-footer and putting the 80-footer right here.
Shorten it, bring it down.
And then you can't shorten it. Yeah, that's the thing,
Bay Street.
is you can't. Well, it's at least gonna be it'll at least be on the other side of it'd be on the other side of the Palmetto Ring.
It worked, it just wasn't thought of at the time, so now we're behind the curve.
You know,
Well, no, that's not true.
That's not true.
That's not true. It wasn't that it wasn't thought about. It was not feasible, because then we would have to move palmetto trees. We would have to move all them granite markers that are there. We would have to do all the other work with the landscaping already there. It needed to be at 45 foot.
And that's where we put it right there because there is a bench right here. And what part of what we were trying to do with this whole scheme was trying to reduce whatever upland impact that we were going to have associated with this too, right? We just wanted to reestablish access. We weren't trying to do a whole upland project to tie it all in. So that's why we came up with the 45 foot plus transition plate ends you, basically you're out one bench, right? But you still have the whole trail going this way, the whole path. So that's what we came up with.
So when we work on the relieving platform or the bulkhead of what we're gonna do, is the city gonna be the proud owner of 2 gangways then?
Yeah. Yeah. So the thought would be is either one or more of them would be reincorporated either back here at the day dock when the new relieving platform is set up, or at another,
We
You
looked
know,
at the,
at another
down to
project.
the marina docks, the 2 docks there, the 2 ramps, and see if that would be a suitable.
Either one of them would probably be, now, I wouldn't put that ramp on those existing wooden docks at the marina. Because they're not designed, they don't have the additional compensation flotation, and that would sink those docks. But when those docks get replaced, which presumably they will at some point, then yes, they could be reused over there for sure. As long as the docks are designed to support the weight of the gangway.
The platform where the new dock is gonna terminate, are those piers there, are they concrete or steel?
They're steel.
And they're steel and they're driven?
Yes,
Are they no concrete at all?
no concrete. Okay.
Beams?
Round steel pipe, 1/2-inch steel wall, 18-inch diameter, 70 foot long, 1/2-inch thick steel plate, spiral wound. These are galvanized. It's essentially the same pile that's holding up the floating dock. The piles that are going over here, just in terms of cost, we're getting those coal tar epoxy. Those are going to be black. And we're getting them coal tar instead of galvanized, because the thought is this is a temporary structure, meaning, this thing is not designed for 50 years, because presumably in the next couple, we're going to replace the relieving platform and the tie-in and whatever connectivity we're going to have there. So, if this was going to be a 25, 30, 40, 50-year fix, would this design look a little bit different than it does? Probably. It probably would. I probably would have used concrete piles and a concrete cap, but that structurally, this does what we need it to do for the next several years until we've got our replacement in. So that will be 4 piles and then some HP 14 by 73 wide flange sections, and then an aluminum frame that all the aluminum ties into. So that's what we got. Next slide. So Duncan spoke to this, waiting on the final permit, council approval tomorrow. Opening is expected July 1st. So back into the actual phase 2. If you guys remember, we did the original investigation. We came in here, we pitched 8 potential scenarios, just like if we threw it all at the wall, if it could stick, we pitched it to you. We talked about that. We took it down to 5 feasible alternatives. We said, let's investigate a little bit more. And at the same time, let's find a way to create some renderings that engages the public. Let's get some public input, some public engagement. I know that this committee developed the questionnaire, the poll that you guys sent out. We got a copy of that and then went through all the comments. And so a lot of the illustrators who made the renderings took a lot of those comments into consideration when they were doing that. So there was a conglomeration of stuff that we had talked about in here, and then plus your comments. But we went through, we like do nothing, repair, rebuild the platform, essentially the same style as existing, relieving platform or wharf, rebuild it with a seawall, as in fill it in, or do a hybrid approach. And essentially what we did in this phase is just a little deeper dive into those and then come up with some, hopefully what you guys will think are pretty pictures in which to engage the public. And then the thought is that we're going to do that next Wednesday. So if you will launch that PDF. That's it, yep. So we will, the plan is to print, I believe we have six of these boards. The plan is to print them out in large format, full size. Use them to engage the public over at the pavilion. We're still determining the exact method that we're going to collect their feedback as a result of that presentation. But I'll show you, I'll go through the slides and what we got here. So this illustration of existing conditions out there, you know, they did a good job of just showing some of the pile deterioration, if you will. Pretty good rendering of what is out there now. This line represents, you know, basically about where the top of the platform is and as a representation of the inundation level. The pretty much king tide flooding, right? King tide inundation somewhere around there, right at about the level of the pier, maybe a little bit higher than that. If you scroll down on the same page, this is actually going to be out on the, these will be out on the website as well, but this is, you guys have seen this graphic before that we discussed with you. This shows the flooding at 6 feet, which is about where the top of the platform is now. At 7 feet, this is the type of flooding you get, and then all the way on up to 11 feet. And if you remember from some of our real early analysis, we said, well, look, at 9 feet is about the most we could do to protect downtown before you start getting wrapped around from the other side of the peninsula. And then we spoke to this thing called adaptive capacity, right? How do we meet that 9 elevation in the future when we're really going to need it, but not spend all that money today to get there? And I'm going to go into that a little bit more, but this slide will also be up on the website for people to understand. But flood conditions and then the deteriorating piles, and so that's the need for this project. If you go down to the next slide, this is scroll down a little bit more. I think this is the repair option, and the more we looked at it, repair is just it's not feasible because you really have all this extensive shoaling that is in here, right? So all this is extensively shoaled in, so you don't really have access under here. There's a lot of places where the mud line comes up to the bottom of here and I can't even squeeze in up under. So repair is extremely difficult because you can't get to it from down below. This is 6 feet of dirt that you'd have to dig through to get to the structure from the top. And so you start putting all that together and you realize that any repair scheme, if you could come up with it, could potentially end up costing more than just rebuilding the facility, just because the logistics you would have to go to even be able to get to what you're working on. And then you're still faced with the same issue. You know, sea level rise is a thing, it is occurring, and it's projected to keep going up. And so the sunny day flooding that you have that puts the day dock down maybe 4 or 6 days a year now could be double or triple that in the future. And then with those higher sea levels, you're expected to see much more deterioration. So any repair scenario is really putting good money after bad with this one. You can scroll on down. this page. And again, on this, I'll point out, I didn't want to just spend this time reading everything off to you guys in this format here, because I figure we can spend that time more constructively. But we did put some language in here that's been reviewed by the city that just speaks to the feasibility of these options, what the pros and what the cons are of some of these options, because that's really what phase 2 for us was a feasibility study. What can we go back to with the people of Beaufort and say, look, we've really looked at this, we've looked at all the angles, and from a cost, regulatory, from all the angles, this is your best option. So the other thing that we want to do for the public meeting, whether it makes it to the public meeting or whether it makes it to the website, is Eric had a really good idea. We have these gauges. It kind of looks like a speedometer, right? And it's different criteria that we've set up: permitting, cost, longevity, or whatever it would, and just have little meters that kind of show each option, where you are on that meter between 1 and 100 or whatever, where you kind of rank on the scale. It's just a 1,000-foot view of what the impact of each of these options would be.
Just a grade that's attached to each option.
Essentially, yeah, just to say, hey, this is how we've kind of ranked them, and and then obviously that's the type of input we're hoping to get back from the constituents too, right?
And this website that you're talking about, this is a city dedicated website to the waterfront part of this project, separate from the capital projects portal, just to kind of pull this off to the side and make sure there's one place where everything
Standalone,
lives.
one-stop shop.
Gotcha.
That has these videos from Waterfront Advisory Committee, as well as any kind of details, past and present and future for the project.
Okay.
Like a clearinghouse. So yeah. So again, with the repair, poor return on your investment. So that's really what that comes down to as well. And I don't really know that a repair scheme would be any faster either, in terms of that either. So you can go on down to the next slide, if you will. So the next couple of slides are going to talk about the new structure alternatives. Option 2 is rebuild back what you have. It would be the same relieving platform, but we would build it as a wharf. Okay, there's very little difference between a relieving platform and a wharf. It's a little semantics in here. Basically, it's going to be a higher freeboard, and it's not going to have 6 feet of dirt over it. Everything else is going to be just about the same. One of the things I will point out is what we haven't identified what exactly is the best elevation yet to bring the pier up to, right? We know we can't leave. We know we don't want to leave it at the elevation it is now. We know we probably don't want to go ahead and pay to raise it to 9 or 10 or 11 now, because that's more. Maybe we go to 1.5 feet now, and we add some of that adaptive capacity. In other words, we make sure the structure can handle a hydrostatic load that's 3 foot greater than it is today. That we can account for in 30 years, but we don't have to pay for it right now. Part of raising the structure, the big thing with the functionality of the park is, how do you tie the park back into this new structure? If the new structure is 2 foot higher, how do you get the rest of the park, which already sits lower than the relieving platform? How do you bring the rest of that up? Because some of the park does sit lower. So what we have come up with, and a lot of this was based on the feedback from your guys' polling that said they like what they have. Everybody likes what they have. They want to have it back. We like the park. We like the swings. And so we tried to make a nod to, hey, look, we don't want to change the park. It's clear everybody likes it. What we do have to do is just rework some of the transitions. So you might have, let's say, 2 feet. So now you're going to have some 24-foot-long ADA ramps to have a 1-on-12 slope, just to make sure that you can convey people. We might have some terraced type of seating, or maybe you take advantage of the planter, the red brick planter arrangement that you have now, and build off of that. So our thoughts for this, we're having ample connectivity to get back up to here, however that is accomplished. And then what we had also discussed was, again, everything's going to be up higher than it is now. And I know that there was a desire to be able to drive out here. What we're thinking is this will be a vehicular ramp that goes around behind the maintenance building here. Will come all the way along this way and it will ramp down this way. So now emergency services, emergency vehicles will be able to go to pull fully on and fully off the waterfront. The new structure is going to be 40-foot wide. Okay, so that's 4 lanes of traffic wide. Okay, so that's a wide area. So there's a lot of possibilities that could be done with the platform itself, as far as, you don't have to stage all the food trucks down in here anymore necessarily. There's a lot you could do with the linear area there. It's just kind of up to guidance from the city and Beaufortonians as far as, what that will look like in its final form. All the illustrations show the red brick that's there, and they show the oyster tabby that's there, and we show the swings going back. I mean, materially, we're trying to keep the exact feel that we have now, except put in a much more robust structure and get 75 plus years of life out of it. That's where we're going with it. So if you'll scroll down a little bit, I'll go to.
Are you envisioning a solid wall instead of the rope fence there's now, or?
I'll talk a little bit to that. That's where this adaptive capacity comes in, and I'll explain. So this is where we would be if we were to design this as a wharf, right? If you look at this, all we did was we just went up a little bit and we took the dirt out. Okay, there would be the massing of this, there'd probably be less concrete, right? The piles would come up a little bit higher. Oops, you can zoom out on that. What I was talking about with adaptive capacity is, let's say, one of the comments that we saw from the public was they like the handrail and chains, right? That was part of the charm, the aesthetic. So that's why we're not showing this newfangled handrail scheme or whatever. We're going back with what our marching orders were, or what we at least thought they were. So let's say we know that in 50 years, we need to be at elevation 9, or we're going to get flooded. We're going to be right back to where we are today, or even worse, if sea level trends continue where they are. Let's say we build this thing now today to 7.5. We put the deck at 7.5. We get y'all another 18 inches. That gets us 20 years that you guys don't even, 25 years, let's just say, that you don't have to even think about king tides. Structurally, we will design it to where these panels could then be put back in between these handrail bollards. In 25 years, you could go back and put in a storm panel between their handrail bollards, and you could get your other 25 years of capacity out of that structure for sea level rise. You could get that. For very little expenditure, we could design the structure now to be able to accept that panel in 25 years if you need it, right? So we don't have to design for an anticipated 50-year condition, right? We can have some adaptive capacity in there. So this could be, if you didn't like the chain idea and this needed to be some other type of fencing to meet a code or to address some other thing, this could be, it could be chain link. Whatever meets code, and then this panel could be swapped out for like an impact rated glass in the future. This is what they did on the low battery project for the city of Charleston downtown. When they raised the low battery, what they did is they went ahead and they designed it for these storm panels to be put on in like 20 years from now. That was the whole deal. So that's just a thought of, okay, how do we make sure that the money that you guys are going to spend now, and I'm saying, hey, look, I want to design this to where you guys don't have to mess with it for 75 years. How do we make sure we get there? This is part of the way we make sure we get there, is we're trying to anticipate future conditions and then balance the economics of the structure somewhere to that. And that really shakes out in the final design.
What kind of boat mooring load can it take?
So for for various reasons, you won't see a picture of a single vessel in this presentation. How big of a mooring load do you want it to take? That's what I need to hear from you guys. Okay.
Bill,
Yes.
go back just a minute. I don't recall ever discussing needing to accommodate vehicular traffic along here. Can you discuss what, if any, sort of compromises need to be made design-wise in order to accommodate vehicles, and would this be just an emergency?
There wouldn't be anything in addition that would need to be designed into it. It was just, somewhere in conversation to me, and maybe I misunderstood, but it sounded to me like it would be nice to have some vehicular access along there for emergency personnel, for maintenance, for the like. We're not designing a highway bridge here, so it's not like we would have we're not designing it for like a semi truck. It would be lighter duty vehicles. But again, the load we would design this for would, just for people, would be 100 pounds a square foot, which is going to be every bit as heavy as any vehicle that's going to drive on the facility. So what I'm saying with that is, it's not like you're going through a lot of extra design effort to ensure that you could drive like a small maintenance pickup truck or a food truck.
What about aesthetically? What features would have to be built into this to accommodate?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I mean, I would imagine you could drive on if it was open right now, I'd imagine you could drive down the relieving platform now, can't you? Is there no vehicular access out there? I mean, I'm sure,
Yeah, you could.
I'm sure you could drive on it now, so.
Well, no, not now.
Not now, but. I mean, is it a benefit to have maintenance and emergency vehicles have access to the downtown waterfront?
Absolutely. I
And-
mean, I think that,
Yeah,
you know, yes.
But to answer your question, in the whole scheme of things, that does not, that will not really alter the cost of this, because there's so many other loads and stuff you have to take into account.
No WL lines.
No, it's nothing.
And it sounds like it's being built for the flexibility of being able to utilize it that way if you wanted to, and then if you didn't, fine, but we're going back a little bit further than what it is now, right? If you're going 40
Well,
feet.
It visually, you have to go back further. What's hard to understand, and it's hard to understand even in the renderings, is some of this, okay, some of your bench, swings, trees, and all that is actually out here.
Right.
It's actually on the existing structure, and so some of those trees are growing out of the fill that's actually inside the structure. So visually, that tree is going to have to go away, because it's not going to grow out of the brand new concrete that we're going to pour there. And so there are going to be places along the promenade where, yeah, hey, guess what? We did have that. Maybe it was 20 feet until you got to the bench, but aesthetically, we need to figure out, okay, well, do we put some planters back to then bring back the old extents of the park, or do we have this opportunity now that we just have this much more open area, or hey, do we maybe, let's move this back a little bit so we do have an open area here, but maybe we have some swings that are closer to the water and not 40 feet away from the water. Since the swings are so popular, why do they have to be 40 feet away? Well, why not have them 4 feet away or whatever?
So essentially, is this platform about as wide as where the chain link fence is now?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's right there. I mean, we went,
So it's gonna be
it's 36 feet. I think we discussed 40 feet
Yeah.
just to get there.
Are you supporting this then with concrete piers,
It'd be concrete piles.
concrete piles? Okay, and then how are you going to offset those concrete piles by not suffering the same condition that the existing piles are in?
So we
How
had
do we
this.
know that's not gonna happen to the concrete piles?
We had this conversation, actually before this meeting, a couple of things, right? That was 50 years ago. processes, the design, everything. I mean, they weren't even using some of the design software.
What kind of concrete and cement and concrete mix are you planning on using for these piles?
They make all kinds of admixtures,
Pardon?
high early strength,
That's what I'm asking.
low air entrainment. There are plenty of admixtures that are specific for protecting your rebar against saltwater corrosion.
Now, is the rebar going to be coated or is it just gonna be bare metal?
That will shake out in the design as well. I don't know that you can get pre-stressed piles with everything in them coated, with all the spirals coated
Can I help
now.
you with this?
What's that?
I can
Yeah,
help you with.
go ahead, please.
What I would anticipate, if you spend all this money, you would use a Florida DOT spec pile. Everything is epoxy coated inside of it. It's made to last for a 75-year pile. All of your pile and the way Bill and the engineers want to design it, everything that's in the bottom of that platform will be above our spring tides. And everything will be encapsulated. I would say that all of our rebars, all of our reinforcing steel that's in it is going to either be epoxy coated. We even have fiber reinforced plastics out there that are just as strong. They're using them in bridges all over Florida right now. There are products out there that can make a bridge last 100 years if you want to spend the money.
Yep.
And Florida's doing it every day. So in the marine construction business, we have come in the last 20 years with concrete. I mean, it has come such a long way. That we can build things that can last for 75 to 100 years.
Second question I have is you have this platform here in this picture on the right. How is that platform going to butt up against the land to the right, where the chairs are, where the benches are?
Yeah,
So what's going on? Where's the connection point and how is that going to be handled?
so one way or the other, there is a seawall back there now. Okay, this is the representation. Well, this is the representation of a new seawall, but there is this back there now. Most of it's buried, some of it's not. I think most of it is probably at this elevation. Excuse me, I think back in the late 90s, early 2000s, they dug some of it up and inspected it, but we've just got to go ahead and assume that the earth retention structure is going to have to be replaced. That's just basically a foregone conclusion in this.
What
this
material would that be?
That probably the best solution there would be probably steel sheet pile. Probably a steel sheet pile would probably be the most effective there. Right now, what you have is it's all concrete. It's all concrete sheet pile. All the seawall is, even over by the marina, and those unfortunately are notorious for leaking and not maintaining tight joints. If you scroll down just a little bit, I'll kind of continue on with, you can stop there. So this is just an idea, just a concept of what it would look like in the park with the new elevation of the pier, with that pier being, 2 feet taller, 3 feet taller. And this just shows that the transition, this could be an earthen type of knoll. This could be those brick planters that are out there now. We can extend those with the radiuses that they currently have to match that motif. And then this is another potential where you just have some kind of multi-purpose seating. Some of it that mentioned stays benches, some of it's more like stadium seating. So again, just some ideas of what to consider on the inside of the park, but by and large, you can see that visually, there's really not much is going to change. There is no huge difference in visual impact from what you see today towards what we're projecting it's going to look like in the future. And I think if we read the room right on your all's poll, that's what we took out of it. As they were happy with what they had. Of course, everybody's got their own little thing.
If a hurricane breaches that, are we gonna have enough drainage built in where it can drain out because it's gonna be trapped there?
Yeah, well, I mean, to some extent, I think you kind of have this bowl condition now in parts of the amphitheater area, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm assuming that it drains now. I mean, part of the redesign will have to address drainage. I mean, that's just gonna be, you guys know the deal. Anytime you stick a shovel in the ground around here, you're gonna have to deal with some kind of drainage in perpetuity just because of how low everything is built. One of the things that we're gonna have to deal with, I think, is part of our project is the penetration that comes from the new drainage project that's currently going on. We're gonna have to incorporate the outfall because they're not actually taking. If you remember the last time we were in this room, part of the deal was they were gonna take out part of the platform. Like right now, part of the platform is supposed to be gone. So that's been taken out, but that will have to come back into, presumably it would be part of our scope to figure out how to get that through the new structure. And so there will absolutely have to be a drainage component that would address all those things.
The second question, that could you model out, I mean, it's not part of this, but the marina area and the marina parking lot, if you build all this up, is there gonna be a wraparound effect there flooding the marina parking lot?
Well, I don't think that we're going to have the wraparound effect. I think what the conclusion there is your parking lot's gonna continue to flood. You know, and that's, and until we can build up or replace that seawall and then bring that infrastructure up to grade, then the flip side of that is the park's not flooded, but you just can't park and walk to the park.
Is that because the parking lot's low enough where if it does flood, it's not gonna go right to the park that way?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think
the
so.
elevations are different.
Yeah.
You got the
Yeah,
pavilion.
yeah. Yes, yeah, you're right. Right.
I think, Mr. O'Quinn, you said last time we met, you talked about the berm that sits back behind the relieving platform. Is that visually what we're seeing here, except you're raising the relieving platform up to, say, 1.5 feet or whatever it is, and then this berm is just the way of kind of like blending in the rest of that?
That's what, yeah, that's all that is showing there. Is just how would you make that transition, right? From, how would you make that 2-foot transition?
Yeah.
This is the most inexpensive way to do it. You make that transition with dirt.
Two things on that. Okay. I know we're a long way from getting to these details, but a berm like that will not work in that park for longevity and maintenance. There's no way to maintain that. It'll be torn up. It'll just be a mess. Okay, so it has to be a retaining wall of some sort to hold the plant.
Sure.
The problem we have with the current park is we have lots of effervescence and stuff because of the material choices used. So the red brick looks nice, but we've got a lot of problems down there now that have never been able to be addressed from the earlier design. So I want to make sure that somebody's having that discussion and look at the material choices and make sure that's what you want for the next 50 to 70 years, because it may not be, right? Even though we want to look the same, it could be red brick, but let's make sure we research why that other system is having the issues it is.
Can I ask just a little bit deeper into that, why you don't think that a berm like this would work? Are you?
Because it's an active park, okay, and so it's got grass edge on it. So if it's too steep, that's where all the play areas end up, and it's just gonna be eroded away. So over time, even maintenance and cutting and weed eating and planting is gonna be very difficult. Can't keep mulch on it, can't keep the kids out of it. You know, I just don't think, I've never seen a park with an edge like that worked for an active park like this.
And you're right. It's likely that this would probably change to something that's going to be less maintenance intensive, you know, or it's possible, you know, this just to get us talking about some options.
The other thought I had was that wide walk path is, the new promenade. You know, we need to see some elevations at some point if that's the direction we end up going, because that's a significant change in visuals on that park, having that big open space. It changes a lot of things. I like the idea of more swings, but maybe not at 4
Oh,
feet.
you're talking the 40-foot width? Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as far as the driving goes, I think some of the background on that is the fact that we've been very restrictive on the park of access, but we know the use requires vehicles to get down there. So every festival that goes on, trucks and trailers go down there. Everyday maintenance vehicles drive around down there. And then the thought of having to get an EMS down there, there's really no way to get to the park.
Yeah.
And that is an important factor. So if it can be drivable, it's a positive, I think, for the total use of the park.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, with the aesthetics of what we see up top, that's where, it's really gonna be a blank slate. I mean, that's the, 40 foot wide, 2,000 foot long blank slate. And if our marching orders are, hey, go in that footprint and as close as you possibly can, put all those planters back in the same exact location, we could do that. We could also, listen to input from maybe some of the people that do festivals or whatever else and say, hey, we'd like to see X, Y, and Z. And then we figure out, okay, well, how do we bring that back in? So this is what we wanted to be able to do, was to at least be able to start this discussion with the public. And that's why we came up with renderings, to hear stuff like, yeah, your grass is dumb. Don't do the grass. Great.
At least cut the grass.
You're not hurting my feelings by saying that. Like, that's the intel that we want to hear from the other people.
Let me ask you, let's just say everyone says we want as much green space as there now, since we're taking out the whole seawall. Is it feasible? You can say, okay, let's bring it out another foot or 2 feet of dirt and seawall so we can have the same amount of green space with this new 4 foot wide promenade.
Yeah, I mean, that's something you could look at doing is, we could do a calculation and say, okay, you've got this much green on top of your structure now. Do you want this same percentage of green back on it? Yeah, certainly. This is way down once we design the structure, the structure, hey, it's going to support the 100 PSF load. It's going to support a small vehicle that's going to be able to go out there. It's going to support all the environmental loads that you can throw at it over the next 50 years. You can do anything you want to. I mean, we can make it look, once the bones are there, man, you can make it look however we want to make it look for the city of Beaufort. Let's go to the next one. This is the same thing, same option. You can just scroll down to the bottom of this page. This is the kind of the seawall option that was discussed. Quite a few of us, quite a few people asked the question, well, hey, why can't we let's just fill it in, and that's going to be the cheapest, the easiest way to do it. Well, since our last discussion, we got, we did get final clarification from BCM that the critical line is currently right here. Okay, this is where the critical line is. And so that 40 feet, well, it's really 36 feet, that 36 feet all the way out to the edge of the platform would have to be filled. Because they're looking at all of that's under the relieving platform now, even though there's trees that are growing out of the top of it, water's flowing under it. So they consider that state waters. It's a resource. It's part of the resource. And so just filling it in would not be is it an insurmountable regulatory hurdle? No. You could probably get past that if we showed through an alternatives analysis that this was the best option. And we could probably wordsmith that into the best option. But then it's highly probable you would be faced with having to pay for mitigation. So it's kind of hard to say, well, it's the most environmentally responsible option, but we got to pay, millions of dollars into mitigation because we're filling in this much wetland. So regulatorily, that's kind of a hard obstacle. And then secondary to that, we looked at, okay, well, there are portions of that platform where it's from here to the mud is 25 feet. Okay, that's a lot of earth to retain at 25 feet. And so this would have to be so massive out here. Your wall structure would have to be so massive. We'd likely have to support that on piles as well. You could maybe do it out of steel sheet pile. There's probably a steel sheet pile option, but then you've got steel sheet pile that's going to just sit out there, and now you're going to have to inspect it and make sure that it's not corroding on you, which it will. It'll corrode the moment you put it out there. So this would probably have to be concrete, and it just brings in a tremendous amount of challenges. Let's put it that way. The good thing is, in this situation, this just shows a massive wall with like a kind of a built-in anchorage behind here, just to add a little bit of anchorage from rotation. In this concept, there's no seawall back here, right? Because we just essentially moved the seawall out 36 feet. But just not, it's probably based on our initial conversations with BCM and what we've looked about at some of the conversations that Duncan and I have when we just figured out, okay, well, how could we do this? Like, if we're going to sit down and do it, how could we actually do it? It's probably not worth chasing down this option any further. If you scroll down just a little bit, nope, not to the next one, just a little bit.
Sneak peek.
No, yeah. So this really speaks to the whole thing that I've been telling you guys is let's go back with basically what is there, because that's what everybody wants, tie-ins, and this shows just some potential steps down, some ADA trails to have some connectivity. I think the plan view shows another one that goes back in there, and the light. So the fence now, okay, this is good to show where the fence now is about what, right around in here somewhere. So that gives you some idea of, okay, well, do you then move the swings back, or no? You probably wouldn't want to do that. You're gonna put the swings probably founded on the new structure, and then we're gonna have to determine, well, okay, what does that look like? Do we want to have planters around that with this whole green thing, or what? There is going to be a lot of aesthetic considerations that go into that, which I would imagine will be.
You still have to allow for traffic on the platform too, with the swings and the greenery.
Sure. And I mean, right now you've got the space. Right now you've got more than enough space. I think you've got 24 feet. I think this is 24 feet right now out there.
Yeah, this illustration doesn't work well to show you, only because the people are too large in the picture. So it makes it feel like it's a 4-foot sidewalk.
Yeah.
It's really a lot.
Yeah.
broader.
Right.
Yeah. And I didn't even catch on to that. Yeah, you're right. The picture, look, the people are about 12 feet tall in this picture. So that is what's kind of hard to see. But
Did you do any analysis of platform versus just having the seawall? How either one is going to change the water flow, and where silt and where shoaling is going to happen, either around the park, past the park, into the middle of the river? We have not done that analysis, and normally for something like this, unless the regulatory agencies made us, that's normally not necessarily an analysis that would be done for something like this to try to predict what may happen with the future shoaling. My guess is, from what I've seen, is with the shoaling will probably increase. It will probably continue to increase, just because I've seen it. That the best metric I have is the last 10 years of crawling around under the thing and seeing the shoaling. I'm just imagining it wide open now and not half or 3/4 blocked off. And that would be a good thing if we actually did have more tidal flushing under there and didn't have that siltation. And that could definitely be a potential too. There's right now, I believe the bents are 12 spaced at 12-foot centers. We would look at optimizing the design to hopefully have less piles. So right now there's 570 piles under there. Every one of the piles costs money. So we would be trying to do bigger spans, fewer piles, fewer assets in the water to maintain in the future. Try to keep the bulk of the maintenance items up out of the tidal zone if we can.
Forgive me if you've already covered this, but from a time standpoint, how long the project would take, is there any one option that is more favorable than the next?
Not that we have delved into at that point. I mean, right now, I would default on you as a contractor. Do you have any comment on time?
Absolutely. I mean, the elevated platform is the way to go. It's going to be the most economical. It's going to be the quickest. It's going to give you more You'll have 36 feet of brand new space that you can do anything onto. You can make the walkway 24 feet wide. You can make it 20 foot wide. With the benches, you'll have so many more options. And when you do raise and elevate that up above the spring tides, you're absolutely right. There's going to be a lot more flow and things are going to change.
So,
Because it changed, the existing one changed everything.
Absolutely.
so we knew that option two is the raise it and put it on pile, but we knew from a cost standpoint that was going to be the most advantageous, it just is.
Did you say from a cost standpoint? I'm sorry.
From a cost standpoint, I knew that it was, the time I wasn't.
Yeah, you showed us two, though. You showed us a seawall and you showed us a promenade on Highland, right? That's the two we're talking about right now.
Yeah, that's the two, that's options 2 and 3. So option 2, which is the rebuild, the relieving platform option, would be from a cost standpoint, the least expensive, and then from a time standpoint, the least amount of time to install it.
Do we have any eyeball on that cost number?
No, I mean, if you held a gun to my head, we could talk like really, really high level numbers, but no. Now, there, at some point, I know that 100 million was mentioned somewhere by somebody, and I know I've heard that number repeated a couple of times. I don't think we're looking at $100 million here. This is not $100 million deal. It's gonna.
Too high.
No, that's too high. That's too high. I mean, it's gonna be in the millions, but I think you're gonna be less than a third of the $100 million number. Okay, would be my guess. But I don't. Every time I turn around, things are more expensive. So
And it all goes with what the inside of the park is going to look. Building the platform and constructing that, and how much, when the permitting comes in, how much we're about the demo. It's one of the big caveats we have not crossed either. We definitely have to put the whole brand new bulkhead behind it. That's a no-brainer. That's got to be done. We can't take the chance of relying on the wall that's there. And then how much do we have to remove? Can we work around what's there? That's a lot of concrete. I don't know if anybody's seen the old pictures, but the city found some, and you find, you look at that, and I've been really studying them pictures a lot. That's a lot of concrete.
Well, you still have to take out the existing platform, right? But you got a lot of pilings to deal with.
Got to dig it out first, and you got to remove, well, that's just it.
Would you be able to punch through it and drive your piles and leave that?
Do that, or just remove those concrete pieces that are underneath, because it's a big puzzle.
Well, there's girders going down and there's a concrete platform,
That's
right?
right.
So
You
you
just lay it out.
slice it out and try to lay your new pilings around some of that
and leave
existing
the old pilings there.
and leave them, okay?
That would be ideal. But say,
Permitting wise, that's not a problem with the OCRM?
no, that's what I'm saying. We don't know.
yeah, there's some things we don't know yet, and there's pros and cons with any of them. That the con with that is, yeah, you could save a lot of money if you left a lot of stuff just to sit there and rot on the channel bottom. But if you have to go in there and do some maintenance in 20 years, it's going to be a daggum nightmare to get to it.
And then if it does, what we were just discussing, how about if all of that 36 foot where the piling, it's elevated now, current starts running through there, all that silk gets to start moving. And then we got all these pilings sticking out.
Yeah.
So they gotta be, then you got an eyesore.
Yeah, and that's, so if you look at, case in point, we're gonna bring it up 2 feet. You wanna know a way to save some money? Don't put that fascia panel back on there. Right now, there's a fascia panel that makes it all look like it's the seawall. Well, if you go to any other wharf in town, you can see back up under the wharf, all the way to the seawall. That's how wharfs are designed. You can get rid of the fascia panel. But then you get rid of the fascia panel, then you're definitely gonna wanna remove the piles, because if not, then, somebody boating down Beaufort's gonna look up under there, it's just gonna look like a scary nightmare.
Or history.
Or history, yeah, you could spin it like that.
That's just
There you go.
Can anyone at a low tide get underneath there without fascia?
Oh, like to fish or
Or
something?
just like, well,
You mean now or you mean?
Now, no.
no, I'm saying if you didn't put fascia on it and you had a low tide.
Yeah, you could probably get under there, yeah.
That'd be a good
If,
thing, obviously.
if it was warped, so.
Is anybody here familiar with the portable oil?
Take
Take all the fender system out of it, and it's the same concept.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Where is that? I'm sorry.
Port Royal,
Okay.
at the old Port Authority. Safe Harbor owns it now.
Well, you can walk in front of this promenade now at low tide in certain areas. So I'm guaranteed somebody will come in at low tide with a small boat
Yeah.
and either hit bottom, get out and look up under there and go, hey, I can climb in there.
They're gonna sink up to their eyeballs.
Oh, yeah, they will.
Ain't hard.
That's
They
an
will.
issue though.
It's nothing but old, just silt.
Have you thought at all about the, in front of the marina? None of this incorporates that seawall and investigating that seawall because it's presumably the same thing.
It's the same thing. I have investigated it many times. The shoaling still continues along that seawall too, to the point where there are some defects that I can't get to now. As far as I'm aware though, and Linda could correct me if I'm wrong, but the city used to chase sinkholes behind that seawall all the time, but I think that has subsided at some point or.
We still have them occasionally, we still
Okay.
have them occasionally,
So.
not as much as we did.
But it used to be a real big problem.
That's what I'm saying, if we're doing all this, should that be a
Well, I
temporary?
mean, it's, then you're into, man, how much money do you want to spend? The thing is, part of what we, part of the services, I guess we pitched to you guys, or part of one of the scopes is, hey, we've got grant writers on staff. We've got staff that can go out and find out what kind of grants and stuff like that are available. It may be that, yes, there is a grant that's available through FEMA or some other resiliency thing. And yes, to get that money, you would have to do something else. I'm just saying that could be a what if. I think that's the only scenario where we're expanding outside of just the platform, is if it's financially advantageous to you guys for us to do it. Now, the creme de la creme on the next page, this is the hybrid. And again, this was just listening to the people at the city, from the comments on your all's poll, and then giving the illustrator some artistic license. And, you guys recall from our previous conversations that we knew that any hybrid version was just probably likely to be too far over the top and not widely accepted. The whole point of going through all this stuff is to let you guys know, the city know, and the people, and then Beaufort know that, look, we're listening to you all as designers, but also to get you all thinking that we don't have to go back with exactly what's there. It could be something different. If you want to walk out on the water, a little stroll along the promenade, expanded ship berthing, your splash pad and an expanded park over here, the world's your oyster if you can afford it. So if you scroll down a little
Can we
bit,
put like a 4-story viewing tower so we can have a one up on pole?
there you go. There you go. Yes, I didn't even think about that. That would have been cool. So again, this was just more of a, this is what it might look with a splash pad. Go down to the next slide. And this slide is really just to get people thinking outside of the status quo box. Yeah, go down to that one. So this shows the rebuilt relieving platform with, stroll out into the water. Here's the original, or here's the handrail bollards. And then we're showing the infill panels for some adaptive capacity in the future. So these are panels that could be added later, right? If sea level rise is projected to keep going where it's going.
That dog's in trouble, by the way.
Yeah.
That's stuck.
I don't leave either.
So, what's the next image down on this one? This is a good one too, just to illustrate to people, look, if you want a mechanism to get people closer to the water or out on the water, if that is your vision, if that's the way that your that you see the future of Beaufort looking, then speak up. These are just ideas to get, just to foster the conversation. And we knew that when we did them, we were going to get more rejections than anything, but hey, you guys paid us to do it. So that's what we did. This again, this shows the standard concrete handrail panels that we could have the chain here. We could fill that in with some other type of fencing. And then we could add the adaptive capacity.
For the public renderings and the public charrette, could we have the chains presented there opposed to the panels, just to keep the consistency of what it would be and not be too much of a dramatic change? Because I wouldn't want somebody to get locked in on this and say, well, I don't want this rendering because of the panels, but not necessarily rule out the boardwalk, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, well,
They're all optional too.
yeah, we have them on a couple of different options. I'll be honest, I don't know that I can go back and change any graphics before we need to send them out to the printer. At this point, to be able to re-render these.
You gotta have almost to the left there.
But yeah, I mean, you can see this is more of a, this is more of the hybrid concept that we think everybody's going to pretty much dislike. Now, if you go up to option 2, you'll see where I basically broke out, because we only show the hybrid down here on that. We only show the storm panels down here on this hybrid solution, I think. Can you go up to the?
And I wouldn't want the
sheet
hybrid
2.
solution to get canned because of the panels.
Yeah. So like on here, we show the chains, and then if you go up here, chains, and I show the breakout of the storm panel and just kind of speak to that, as far as the adaptive capacity. So, I mean, I really view it, it's my job to explain that to them, but I mean, I can ask the illustrators and see if that's change that can be implemented.
It's obviously way down the road. I know you guys are just throwing ideas out there, but would the wooden walkway be hurricane resilient, or we'd have to be replacing that?
Again, that was just ideas, for how it was rendered. I mean, I would imagine something like that, if there was a lot of support for it, would probably be, concrete or something, something like that. But, what's the only, the main benefit of something like this with the walkout on the water is you can't tie a boat up to the relieving platform now, can you?
And you also can't get to the dinghy dock.
Yeah, well, so again, with the hybrid solution, it was just one of those things to let people know that, look, we didn't come into this with blinders on, and we didn't want, and we wanted to let the people in the city of Beaufort know that, hey, you don't necessarily, if you want what you got and you want that back, that's fine, but it doesn't have to be that. And that's how we were just trying to, get people's input, was just coming up with something crazy and saying, hey, tell us why you hate this, which is great, because you can find out a lot just about by what people hate. So.
I hate it.
Good, good.
Just so you know.
Please come to the public forum and make your comment known. Your vote counts just as much as the next
So
person.
if we
might.
get 100 people, if we get 100 people show up to the forum, and we have a survey, and 75 says they like this, is that the direction we're going? Who's gonna make that decision?
I'm not making that decision. I
I'm
don't.
not making that decision either.
No.
Can you talk a little bit about the format for the charrette and what time of day and who's gonna be there and how's it gonna proceed?
So we met just before this meeting to kind of put some of those together, and I think Scott and Eric can speak a little bit more to it. But what we had planned on was next Wednesday, 5 to 7 or something like that, 5 to 7:30 or whatever. Give people a half hour to get there, and then I do a very similar, albeit quicker, kind of presentation. We're going to have these printed out 24 by 36, like large format boards with some easels, and put them up in the pavilion. And we'll have staff to kind of man each one and be there to the one loose end that we're working on, where we left it, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but we're working on a pre-programmed way to get the feedback. Like, we know we're gonna get feedback through the website, right? That's why we have this website. Is one, it's a data clearinghouse, and two, it's a way to get all the public feedback. So that's good, but we need to have some kind of pre-programmed way of going into it next Wednesday. We just hadn't finalized that yet. But we will.
Like a way for somebody to say, I like this, I don't like that.
Yeah, whether it's stickers.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about a couple of things, stickers, public comment cards. Absolutely having a QR code for the website to where they can go and then get their comments. So the exact format has not been worked out. I assume that over the next 6 days, that's part of what I'll be ironing out on that one.
So you look at the 22nd.
So the public notice, will go out about this, Scott.
Well, what, if this committee is fine with the date of the 22nd, that's one of the things I wanted to discuss with you, then we'll go ahead and we'll start, putting out the word now.
What I'm thinking about is, I didn't know what to expect the way of presentation. I didn't know whether to expect, design further along or not. I didn't know whether to expect cost estimates, or not. One thing I hope that will happen is before anything gets finalized, after the charrette, there'll be some reconnoitering and revisiting. I think it comes back to this committee where it goes further.
Yeah, at the May 4th meeting, I would anticipate that staff would bring back to you what the results of the feedback were, regardless of what kind of mechanism we used. What did the people who attended the charrette say, and what other feedback have we gathered since the presentation? And we would bring that to you. And then at some point, this committee, I believe, should make a recommendation to council as to which way we should go with the design.
After the May 4th meeting, or at the end of the May 4th meeting.
Well, you may not be ready for that at the end of the May 4th meeting. You might just want to hear what people have to say at that point. So
Right.
it may be that you want to discuss it a little further and have an engineer present to talk about some questions you may have on that particular design.
So can I ask this? Regardless of which design alternative we land on, what's there, at least in part, would have to be demoed. So is this process holding you guys up from getting started on the demolition, or is there a way to go ahead and move forward with at least that portion so we can get it behind us? And then once we decide what alternative would be the chosen path, and you guys would be that much more further along. Does that not make sense?
If it was me, I probably wouldn't demo anything until I had a permit to rebuild it.
Yeah, you killed the part you know.
I wouldn't demo anything until you had a permit in hand that says you can put back what we want to put back
Because you'd
there.
be restricting that much more of the park by having your demo equipment there, or just?
Well, you have that, but I would want to make sure that I had darn sure guarantee that I could rebuild my marine structure before I took the old one out.
Even though what's currently there is not.
Yes. That's my recommendation.
I think you'd rather.
Duncan, you see any benefit?
That's been the cart before the horse.
Yeah. You may need to use that as a bargaining chip. Bargaining chip.
Gotta go pay.
And I don't think it would be advantageous.
It's not really
It's
gonna,
not like it's gonna, we're not losing time by not starting it, basically.
Because during the permitting phase, then you can start working on numbers and getting ready for your bidding.
I think what we would be able to do is, so let's say we hear all the good feedback and we get all the feedback, and then you guys do your thing and you come back and you say, listen, we agree with you. The constituent, the Beauftonians agree with you. Option 2 is the way to proceed, which is the rebuild the relieving platform, but higher, right? And then from that point, then we can actually come up Like, once we know what we're designing, then I think we can start coming up with a legitimate schedule, like out to construction. Now, that schedule is gonna change 1,000 times between now and the next 3 or 4 years. But that's the first time that I think we're actually able, like, once we have our marching orders that says, yep, this is the design we want, and we're released on to do the permitting and design, at that point, we're able to actually give you a starting point with the schedule, and then we can start looking at, okay, are there ways to game the schedule to be more advantageous?
And how long do you think it would take roughly from the time that we said this is the alternative to where you provide the starting point of that plan?
Where we would provide a scope and a fee and a schedule, it'd probably take us a couple of months to get there, a month maybe. You know, maybe not a couple, I mean, it's by the time we got through all the the council stuff that we had to go through to get approved, I would imagine it would be a few months to get us released and started formal on a formal design and permitting agreement. Yeah, I would think.
And folks will probably be asking at the shredder, what are we talking about? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years? I mean, that question will come up.
Yeah.
And you may say, we don't know yet, but people are gonna wanna know.
Well, I mean, I think that I wasn't too far off when I said last year that if we have to close it down, it's gonna be closed down for 5 years. And that was last summer, and at this point, I don't know that has changed much at this point. I don't think a lot of it's gonna depend on funding, right? You know, if for some reason we identify and then go chase a grant, that, some of those and some activities can be done concurrent, some can't. So you never know. It's like, hey, we might go off in this direction to try to chase this money, and it delays. There's just, who knows what could happen, but we want to try to find all the angles that we can.
So is there any way to take any of these earlier suggestions off the table now? So there's no more focus on those before charrette? Really should ask the chair of this. And the committee is, because I mean, you had do nothing, replace what's there, and repair it, right? Those two are a no-show right off the bat.
I thought we already narrowed it down to the 3, and that was it.
3.
Well, he presented the other ones tonight, that's why I'm asking.
You got 3.
I think that was just a recap of the starting point, right? You just recap, this is where we started, then we narrowed it down to 3.
Exactly. That's kind of up to you guys as to how much, because Eric kind of asked the same question too. It's like, hey, do we want to show all these options that are non-starters? Is that really germane to what we're trying to do here? We had to do it because it was in our scope.
I understand, but like we said, leave the seawall condition on there. We've already heard the feasibility of that is a very tough, possibly no-go. That's one whole scenario out the window.
But that was one of the 3 alternatives that we discussed when we narrowed it down from 8 to 3. So I do think that in keeping with our intent to provide 3 different options to the public, there would at least be value in keeping the 3 renderings, even though we think that maybe a seawall is not feasible. But I do see value in not bringing up the other 5 because we've already narrowed the scope from 8 to 3.
There's a lot of good information on all the slides. Is kind of my contention. So it's kind of like a catch-22. It's like too much information can also be a bad thing.
Too much information, you're gonna get, people are gonna be very confused. I think, according to John.
I'm sorry, Bill.
I just want to, by narrowing it down to 3, you give people, they have 3 options, and that's where we ended up with the 3 options. That would be the 3 that we would present to the public, not the charrette. That's.
Yeah. In talking to people, I have been in conversations where they wanted to know, why can't we just repair what we have? And so to that end, there's a faction of people who think that we can do that, and clearly we can. It's just more expensive and it won't last. So I think there is some value in at least presenting that as an option, because it is an option. And then I think there's also some value in presenting the one where we have to put a sheet pile down and backfill it, right? If nothing else, just to explain to some level of detail
why it's not a real feasible option, because that's a popular notion among a lot of people too. Why don't you just backfill it?
Yeah,
And so I think there's some value in having it presented in a way that explains, hey, we can do this, but here's why it's not a real feasible option compared to the other
Yeah.
options. So I think there's some value in presenting just from those perspectives.
Could we code the boards to the hypothesis of value or cost? Meaning, in other words, here's a presentation board and it has a ranking of, this is the most expensive.
I think that's totally possible. That or like those meters who we were talking about. It's like, hey, this one's like all the way in the red on cost, whereas this one's in the yellow and, you know.
You know, numbers, you can put the.
Yeah, and just, hey, this is a ramification from those criteria. I mean, I think that would be good. You know, part of what I'm hoping is that the people that are going to be there, like the rest of my staff who have not been at every one of these meetings, you know, Steve will probably be there, Duncan will probably be there to, you know, to assist and answer questions. But that's the big thing, is we need to make sure that the people that are staffing, that, you know, they are, besides myself and the people in this room, are educated as to what is actually on the board. And so I'm going to make sure that, like, once we print them out, that I go over everything with like my guys as a dry run. And so I will probably come down here next Wednesday early afternoon just to make sure that, you know, my guys and everybody are on the same page.
I think some other questions you may have, again, because I get them a lot, is what's the real chance of it collapsing as it is right now? Have you ever done a percentage, 1%, 1/10 of 1%? What would it look like if shoaling, you know, was made only a foot of a drop? I mean, people ask me all the time and I don't have an answer for them.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard one to answer. It's almost impossible. You know, I mean, things are fine until they're not.
Yeah.
That's the best thing that you can say. Like, do I think that the relieving platform is gonna collapse under its self-weight while we're designing and rebuilding this next one? No, I don't think so. But the numbers and all the analysis and people that are way smarter than me told me that it's a possibility, that the numbers are revealing it's a possibility, and that's how we have to go on. Is there is a chance that public safety could be at risk, and we have to follow through with it. We have no other option. And then, as you guys know, man, that put us all in a position that we did not want to be in. I didn't, you know, as much as I like you guys, man, I didn't want to have to be in this position right now. So.
I've got a couple of things. In terms of the dates for the show. My only concern with it is an important event. It's 9 days from today. Communication, publicity, and hard, because we don't have a local television station. I'd almost feel comfortable if we could put it off a week. From the 12th to the 17th, or something like that, provide some more time in there to get
12th to the 7th.
something like that.
We're talking about the 22nd, so you're saying put it off the week.
29th or 30th, but if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Barner cannot.
I could do the. I think I can do the 29th. I can't do the 30th.
Here, I can see about this.
Not really. If you give the public a long lead time for an event like this, they're more apt to forget it's coming up. So if we do an all-out blitz starting tomorrow on this event, happening next week, I think that's just my personal opinion.
And what would that consist of?
It will consist of media release, it will consist of social media, it will consist of emails going out to the neighborhood associations, all the avenues of communication currently used.
Load all zones.
Three times.
The other,
Yeah, and the written.
and the,
We make newspaper cutoffs, because that's where a lot of people see it too, Island News and.
right. My other point is on May the 4th, when all of this comes back, will we have the engineers back here with us so that the feedback can be bounced off of them? Get their feedback on the feedback.
I will let them speak to that.
Will I be here on May 4th for the May 4th meeting? Yes. Yes, I have it in my calendar. I would, just one thing, if we're gonna get, feedback for the website for that. And we'll probably get feedback through the whole project, but maybe we call this the initial feedback, and maybe you put on the website, like, this initial round of feedback is due by the 22nd or the 21st or whatever. So that we could take the public comments from the pavilion and then all the stuff from the website. And give me a day or two, maybe give us a day or two to go through them. So that we're prepared to do something on the 4th when we come in here.
That website launch now?
We're still working on it.
And you're saying that have feedback by the April 22nd?
Yeah, if the website is launched by then, to take public comments through the website, that comments be due by like May 2nd or something like that, just so we can take the initial round of comments and discuss them here on May 4th. It's not like we won't take any more comments after that. It's just, it would be nice if people understand that, hey, your initial round of comments would be appreciated before May.
I was thinking you were asking for it like before April
No,
22nd.
No.
We haven't even launched the website, that's gonna be a squeeze. When do you anticipate the website being launched?
The idea would be it would launch on the day of the public meeting.
Okay, so then at the same time, we can introduce the website
We
and
would probably bring QR codes so that people
Gotcha.
could click right to it.
And that meeting could be at the pavilion, or that charrette will be under the pavilion downtown. I'm just thinking about technology and what you can do down there, and what you can't really do based on weather.
Well, the backup plan is to be out here in the foyer of City Hall.
Now, in the past, we've used things like the meeting room at one of the hotels downtown. It's like, what's the best for access, where you most likely, parking here is pretty rough, so. I mean, I just don't know how better it would be anywhere else.
I'm open ideas and don't mind checking other venues. That's.
we don't have long for blitzing tomorrow. I agree. I think it's really.
Let's look at the long-term weather.
It looks like it looks good for next Wednesday.
It looks good. That's a good thing. The bad news is we're only coasting. It can change.
That's right, yeah. 76.
All right, is there anyone here, considers him or herself to be a member of the public who would like to be heard on anything that we've discussed here so far? Yes, sir.
Have y'all looked at anything like a reinforced earth or mechanically structured earth wall
What did you name, address, get it up here on the screen?
Now,
with fill?
Jennings.
No, because
No, Hal, would you give your name? Please?
Powell Beach, 310 Federal Street.
the question was if we looked at any type of mechanically stabilized walls for this project, and the answer is no, we did not look at any type of MSC walls, and the main reason for that is anytime that we do walls in the marine environment, we go with deep foundations because of scour. And you're just not gonna get the depth of penetration that you need below the mud line with an MSC wall to give you any comfortability on scour.
I got another question. The battery wall in Charleston, they've got about an 18-inch high little wall. And then they got 2 rails on top, and it looks good. And I'm just saying, the built-in 18 inches would help. And the 18 inches here would be, a good safety thing to think about. As much as I like the chains. But maybe you can have a little wall, low 18-inch, 16-inch wall, helps with flooding. And then the chains also, instead of the 2 rails like they got in Charleston. But, because the chains, if you got a little kid, I mean, you were like back in that, you were chasing that kid big time on that walkway. But even from going over. And the only other thing I had was some of those renderings are a little deceiving because that platform's 10 feet wide in this room. a concrete slab where you're showing, now maybe we can, you know, and I think that walkway's 14, 16 feet now. But if you make it, green, it's gonna be a lot of planters. But we put trees on top of buildings. And on the roof, we've done a lot of roof gardens on top of 10-story buildings and with big trees. And, as long as you know where the tree is, you just put more structural, or you put the tree where the structural support is. Just my thoughts.
Any other comments, public comments? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Rob Cahill, 608 Water Street. Commend you on the presentation, the clarity, I like the visuals, and commend this committee for doing this work. I heard you say clearly again that is there a chance that public safety is at risk? Now, I have a background in systems and civil engineering, structural. I reread all the reports. What would happen if you put the benches back next month? I didn't see any explicit language. I'm very familiar with doing risk assessment, risk management, and they're separate tasks. You don't get the management until you've done the risk assessment. What is a risk if you reopen the boardwalk for people? The load factor is very ambiguous language in the reports that said no, and the city understandably wants zero risk. And so before any discussion happened, the fences are up, 12-foot fences and 45,000 signs. So that's settled itself. But what is the risk assessment if you open this next month for pedestrians only? Is that available somehow? That was a standard staple when I did engineering work.
So
That's my question.
when we analyzed the structure, structurally, it was right up to capacity under dead load
Thank you.
with no deterioration and no lateral load. Okay? We didn't even apply a lateral load to the model because it was failing under its own load. So there was no reason to go do an exhaustive, and we didn't even look at the lateral loads because we knew that under earthquake, any type of wind or wave load, that it would likely fail because of the results of just the vertical analysis on the piles that was failing under its dead weight. So that's what we made the call on was the model, was a structural analysis that we did. Looking at several different, we also looked at several different live load scenarios. So in fact, like what if we reduce the live load from 100 PSF to 60 PSF? What if we looked at, well, the thing that's killing you is the fact there's 6 feet of dirt on top of your structure. Okay, so there was a heck of a lot of analysis that went into us having to make the recommendation that we made to the city, which is basically what we determined was that they designed it all the way up to capacity when they built this thing. There was no high-end computer models that could do that. It was all hand calculated stuff. And using the engineering at the time, they used up 100% of the capacity of the piles, the cap, and everything else. So if you're using up 100% capacity and then you have a structural condition that reduces that piling capacity by 20%, then you have a failing condition, period. You don't even need to go into a crazy analysis to prove that, even though we did, but that was the impetus of basically making our recommendation. None of us, when we I've been crawling under that thing since 2014.
I've been to every presentation.
And none of us, believe me, none of us wanted to come in here last year and say, right before Water Festival and say, hey, you got to shut this thing down. And I played devil's advocate with the engineers who were running the analysis. Like, hey, can you look at this? What if we did this? What if we looked at it this way? Hey, and at the end of the day, there was just no way that there was no amount of data manipulation that we can do to make any of us feel comfortable about giving any other recommendation than the one that we presented to the city last year.
Thank you. No, I was here in this room during your presentation. I was here and followed it very closely since, but I also, in reading the report, I thought it was very artfully worded in the report that I found ambiguous. I didn't see any discussion about a risk assessment. My personal experience was, it was deer in the headlights. People were just stunned when they're like, boom, we gotta close it now. And you're talking to the water festival right away. They were, I don't know how much stepping away or up on the balcony, someone looked at all of the rigor of the numbers, even to ask salient questions, like what would the load of people, just people, we're not talking, ACL's not there anymore. So there's a lot of things have happened different than what it was like when you issued the report. But if you just, I'm not here to contest or even challenge your analysis. It's very, very thorough. A plus. But still, like with some distance, except what would happen? What is a risk assessment? And it's probably over zero. If you reopened it, the benches and people to walk, what is that load? It's not 100 PSI per square foot. I doubt just people alone. Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't do that work for a living anymore. So that's the only question. I'm just saying that with some distance, what would happen? Because, Water Festival's coming up in a couple of months and people are there and everybody's been adapting. But I just want to ask the base level question. What would happen if you allowed people only, back on the boardwalk while this is all going on for at least 5 years, likely? So thank you for listening. That's my question. I'll keep raising it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm T. Carter, at 6068 Forks Road, so not city, Young County. Two questions. Number one, from the permitting side, if you replace the platform the way you're talking now, would permitting be considered maintenance, replacing the whole thing in the same profile? Or is it a whole new
No,
construction?
it'd be a whole new permit because you're replacing the whole structure. So it would all require a brand new individual major permit.
Okay. Second question, did you consider putting stone revetment in front of geotubes as an option to replace the whole structure?
No, we didn't look at that. I mean, the biggest challenge that you would have with something like that would be the amount of the footprint at the base of the structure. If you were, in other words, how wide does the base of your riprap need to be to give you a 25-foot tall revetment being founded on your geotubes or supporting your geotubes? So I think just from a footprint below the water line and how much that would take up, I mean, we didn't really look at it from that standpoint. We're trying to stay as close as we can to whatever, wetland line we have. I'm not really sure how that would work, a big revetment out in the water with, again, you'd have the same thing, a bunch of fill. I mean, it would probably work, but it's not one that we went down, a route that we went down, because we just.
It might give you much longer life on the whole structure, though. The stone's not going to deteriorate in that.
Yeah, that's true. I just don't think we could get that footprint of rock permitted.
Well, I'm going to suggest a little lower height on the rock and then concrete above it for the wall in the front would improve that situation. I think you might have a real option with that, with permitting.
Perhaps.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, before we adjourn, is there any new business that you would like to consider?
No new business. I will say that the new information regarding the data, I'm struggling a bit with the increased costs. I know that we'll see this as city council tomorrow. And if I remember correctly, we provided a recommendation. This board provided a recommendation to focus on reopening the DADOT. And this is where I struggle. We are moving forward with repairing the dinghy dock. It's going to be expanded now to where you'll have more access on both sides with the pilings in the center. And now if I remember the numbers correctly, what was going to be a $300,000-ish project now potentially is $400,000. And it's going to be a temporary fix. It's going to be a fix that gets the day dock open until the permanent solution can be complete. And so at this point, spending $400,000 to get that additional access doesn't sound as appealing to me as it did even just $100,000 ago. One question that I have, aside from just my surface level concerns, is do we have and maybe Scott, this would be more of a Ben question, I'm not sure, do we have a federal obligation to keep that day dock open, or by which, because of the situation, we could abandon the idea of moving forward, keep the funds as they are for engineering, open up the dinghy dock, have access on that side, and then reopen the day dock in 4 or 5 years or whatever.
We do have a commitment to keep that open if possible. In fact, we were contacted by in the building, seeing the Army Corps. We were contacted by the Army Corps about a month ago. And they said, hey, we understand that your day dock at the marina is shut down. You have an obligation to keep that open. Can you please explain to us what's going on? And so we provided a very detailed response as to where we were, the waterfront relieving platform issue, and that it prevented us from providing access to the day dock. Couldn't have pedestrians on the relieving platform. And so they were understanding. We said we're working toward a solution. And the response we got back was, thanks for giving us all the information. Please keep us informed with regard to restoring access to the day dock. So there is a requirement, there's an expectation on the part of the federal government, because of the money that was provided to build the day dock, that we keep it open. So there is a commitment there. I'm looking at the, I don't think it's quite $400,000, $306,000 is the figure that I'm looking at.
That's with the additional 70.
The additional
75 for the new ramp.
Correct. But that's the contract that we're bringing to you tomorrow for consideration. So just
305.
306, 775. Got it. So, okay.
Understood.
Softer than 4.
It is softer than 4. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just,
It's still a lot.
It is still a lot, especially just for the temporary.
Gonna get 4 or 5 years in it.
I have a question on the day dock as well. At what point in time, if we started new construction on the seawall, at what point in time would that day dock be closed, or would it be able to, through demolition and everything, would it be open?
Our plan from the contractor standpoint, we would start at one end of the wall and we would do end on end construction. So we would start by the bridge and just continue and build, finish, a couple of 300 feet at a time. That's the way I would propose to do it. So when we reached that point, say it would take 3 months, we would have to get rid of it. And then have that section built back and then hook it back up. And then move our safety fences along as you go, leapfrogging.
So incrementally, we can open up the sections of the platform that are finished to the public.
Correct. That'd be the dock, yeah.
Yeah, that's been my plan the whole time, to try to open it up that way. And to have that plan.
That's a question. The drainage pipe from the Charles Street project, it couldn't go through the seawall, correct?
I'm not sure. I don't really know the backstory. I just know that was removed from their scope.
Is that laying on the relieving platform now? This is that pipe.
It's going through the seawall that is behind the relieving platform.
But it's not gonna be laying on the relieving platform.
So that's a change from what we last heard. Significant change going through the seawall.
With the pipe?
Yeah.
Well, so presumably, since it was taken out of their scope, it would go on our scope. Whatever penetration was that's gonna, we'll have to account for drainage in the design. So we'll just pick that up when we pick everything else up, whatever that.
But right now, is it laying on the platform? Is that the plan until we redo the whole platform?
Is what lane?
The Charles Street piping.
It's in the 6 foot dirt.
Yeah, it's actually below the 6 feet of dirt. It's below the structure right now.
Below the relieving platform.
It's below the relieving platform now,
The
yeah.
old existing pipes.
And the new one's not going in?
There's not gonna be, there's not gonna be any new work going in. And the relieving platform is part of the Charles Street project that we're gonna have to deal with, because they're not putting anything on the relieving platform as part of the current Charles Street drainage project. That was all taken out. So we'll connect to all that as part of our project, I'm assuming. That'll be.
So the Charles Street project doesn't have a place to empty until you guys.
It's my understanding that they're using the outfall that currently outfalls through the seawall. Their original scope was to make a new outfall through the relieving platform, and they were gonna demo the relieving platform.
Yeah.
They did not do that, and they're stopping short of the relieving platform, so I'm going off the assumption that a couple years down the road, we're gonna have to pick up where they left off to then run it through our structure.
We're gonna tie into the existing outfall? Is that what you're saying?
That's what they're gonna do right, that's what they're doing right now.
So where's the Charles Street line gonna tie into at the permitting? At the existing?
It's going to it's my understanding that right now, the Charles Street Craven, the new work they're doing is tying into the existing outfall.
That's correct.
Yes.
And after that, when you guys get down there, you're going to have to readjust those.
Yeah, we're gonna have to tie into, we're gonna have to do the work they didn't do. Yes. 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 More than likely, I would assume. But it's not just that one. There are several pipe penetrations through the old seawall that we'll have to pick up as part of the drainage on the new part.
Anything else?
Does the additional $70,000 not, that's not a concern for anybody else on the board?
It's a
For the day
concern.
doc?
Yeah, definitely. Open it daytime.
There's always,
That-
there's always reasonable standards, I mean, it was $1.5 million. We wouldn't have to do it.
What,
We have the money, that's one question.
where is the money coming from for this? Data.
I recall where.
Part of it came from the engineering money that we had set aside for this project, and now thinking back, I think maybe that was like the $70,000 range, right? And then we were gonna commit that to funding design and starting data, but now there's whatever the delta is, if it's, up to 306, yeah,
It's Parks and Tourism Fund.
Parks and Tourism Fund. So partially funded with money that we had left over for the engineering work of maybe phase 1A, and then coupled with Parks and Tourism funds to make up the difference. And I just don't know how valuable it is from, return on investment. Obviously, we're gonna have the dinghy dock open back up, and the hopes for that would be, May 1st. Is that enough to get us by for 4 years without having to spend $300,000 on opening the additional day dock? Or is there still value in spending that money, even knowing that it's gonna be a temporary solution to have 2 points of access? Is there a conversation that could be had to utilize some of the marina space in conjunction with the dinghy dock, so that you can still have, more than just that access, but not necessarily spend the money to open up the day dock? I guess those are just questions that I would want to fully vet before we committed to spending, $300,000 to get the day dock open.
But according to Scott, We have to have, we have some.
Well, we do have an obligation, I think, but the obligation is within reason, right? So there is a point in time, I'm not saying that we're there right now, but there is a point in time where it may not be reasonable or feasible for us to open up the data. And what that threshold is for Army Corps of Engineers, I don't know. But I think it may be worth the question as to whether or not they would, hold our feet to the fire and require that we open it back up regardless of additional costs.
Was there any slack in their position on this?
It was not an absolute position, but I did not see a range of what was acceptable and what was not. We would have to have that conversation to see. It's a conversation that I would prefer we not have to have, but we keep from it. I think they would view it as we have the means to restore access. We have the responsibility to restore access. And if we do restore access, then it's also a win for people who want access to that day dock again, especially as we're going on the water festival. So I see it as a win all the way around. I understand it's more expensive than we thought it was going to be. It seems to be a common theme lately, any type of project.
When we were first kicking this around, the number that was kicked around was 200,000.
Right.
That had no basis, it's just something.
Well, I think it had basis. We didn't just pull it out of thin air. Speaking with these gentlemen on the front row, as we're getting some information, but I think there was an assumption early on that we would be able to reuse the gangplank that we currently have. And clearly we cannot do that. And I think that contributed to driving the price of the project.
There is a huge value in having access from the water to the waterfront park, even at this cost. I don't like the idea of 75,000 more because of the gangway issue, but that's something you can't get around. But the bathrooms are there. There's hundreds of boats on the water all during the summer months in Beaufort. There's emergencies on the water. There's all kind of reasons why you might want to have additional access to the waterfront. But I know families with kids going down there off boats, getting to the bathrooms is pretty important there in a certain time of year. But is it enough for that kind of expenditure? I don't know. We're going to get a lot of pushback. I already see it on social media about why would you spend $300,000 on a temporary? What they don't understand, the temporary can be up to, a 5-year window. It can be a 3-year window. We just don't know. It's kind of hard to push back on those type of comments when you don't really have any facts.
I think it's just it's a no-win situation. I mean, it's 300 grand, but I think us showing some opening up of the waterfront and especially giving merchants some more traffic, I think is important. It's a big nut.
So we just gotta go for it. We saved $70 million earlier today.
I like the way you think.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So make a